Hey, everybody. I'm just going to be doing this little vinyl tag here, the 2025 vinyl tag, just straight to the channel. I was going to stream it on Twitch, but decided this would be easier to do, so let's begin. So, for those of you who don't know, vinyl tag is like this yearly, I guess, thing where people have a list of questions regarding their record collection, like particularly about albums that they like, for certain questions, and we'll get into those. You'll kind of get the format here in a second. Um, and it's pretty much just a way for people to share, what records they bought recently, what records they like, what records, are emotionally important to them recently through a series of questions that change every year. So let's get onto it. So the first one is best purchase of 2024, new or old. This one for me would be the debut Bauhaus record in the flat field. See the back there. There's a printed inner sleeve as well. Some of these I'll take out if they're noteworthy, but most of the time I won't. So yeah, arguably the first true commercially successful, to some extent, goth rock album. Bought it at a record store about a month ago. Excuse me, I just ate dinner. And I saw it, and it was an original pressing in near mint condition. It is it's easily my best purchase probably ever, I think. In terms of how much I paid for it compared to how much I could sell for if I wanted to, which I'm not going to, obviously, because I love this record. But yeah, original pressing, near mint condition. It has like 10 pops on it maybe, and on it, it's like a 37 minute album. So, if you like goth rock, you like that particular first wave of goth, like the post punk stuff. That's like very moody. Like, this is one to check out. But yeah, best purchase of 2024. They're easily. So, next question. What do you got here? I gotta find a way to stack these as well. Oh boy. Okay, I think that should be good for now. Okay. 50 years later, best album from 1974. Okay, I'm not gonna do 1974. I'm gonna do 1975 because I don't have any records from 1975 or 1974 rather. Like, I looked through my collection. I don't think I have any. Maybe that Rod Stewart record, Every Picture Tells a Story. Is that one? Wait, I gotta check this real quick. That might be 74. 71. Nope, never mind. So I'm going to do 1975 because I have a lot of records from there. So I'm going to do the runner-up first, and then I'll do what I think is the best. Because it is at the recording of this, it is the 50th anniversary of Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks, and I didn't realize that when I put the shirt on today. So we're going to go ahead and choose that as our runner-up, because I do think it is, from what I've heard, the second best record of that year. It's one of his finest. I know Rolling Stone, when they updated their list in 2020 for best albums of all time, they chose this one as his highest ranking, which I disagree with. I think Blonde on Blonde's better. I think Highway 61 is better. But this is still like a near perfect record. So this is a 75 British pressing that I got for a really good price. Probably spin it today, in honor of the fact that this is now it's 50 years old, which is a pretty big accomplishment for a record, obviously, and for it to still have as much relevance with like a younger crowd as well. It shows how really emotionally potent this record is. It's kind of a divorce record, if you guys are unfamiliar with the story behind this record about his relationship with his wife falling apart. And that's a hint of things to come, by the way. So, but that's the runner-up. Okay. What I do think is the best record of 1975, though, overall, and a record that I bought immediately after hearing it on CD. I was working at KFC at the time, and when I got to work, before I clocked in for my shift back in high school, I put a bid on this on eBay because I needed a copy of it, which would be Patti Smith's Horses, the best record of 1975, in my opinion, better than Blood on the Tracks, better than Wish You Were Here, better than Born to Run, even by Bruce Springsteen, better than Physical Graffiti, better than Tonight's the Night by Neil Young. Yeah, as good as those records are, this is a perfect 10 record for me. It really is. This is might be the best punk rock album by a solo artist ever. I mean, it's easily the best punk rock album by a solo artist ever. But as far as like punk rock in general, I think this and The Clash's London Calling are easily like the two best ever released. And this is more on the art punk route, but it's very punk rock, even if it is a bit more patient and a bit more, a bit more methodical than your typical Ramones record. But yeah, best record in 1975 right there. And this is a 77 copy, I think. Has a picture of the band on the back. Inner sleeve's just like regular blue, so I'm not going to take it out. But yeah, there you go. Patti Smith Horses, best record of 1975 right there. Easily. As good as Wish You Were Here and Blood on the Tracks, which are the two runners up. Next, an album that defines a genre. This is another recent buy. I bought this when I bought the Bauhaus record. And I'm glad that this question's on here because I was thinking about this in terms of this question. But yeah, an album that defines a genre. The Cure, Pornography. They're arguably their best record. This or Disintegration, obviously, I know that's the other fan favorite. I think this one might be a little bit better. Disintegration, I love that record too, but this one I'm gonna put on more because it's a lot shorter, and this is the sound that they were trying to return to on Disintegration. When Robert Smith was like 29, he was like, "Oh man, I'm about to turn 30, and I've never made a masterpiece yet." And so he kind of mined this record. He was like, "I wanted to make something like this again, but with the catchiness of like Kiss Me" or whatever. That kind of like middle jangle pop stuff. That's still pretty good as well because it's The Cure and they do everything amazingly. But yeah, The Cure, Pornography. This is a six. How many tracks? 8 tracks, I think. 8-track record. Yeah. 8 tracks on it. 43ish, 44ish minutes. This is like a 2022 pressing, I think, from the UK that was imported, but I got it for a good price at the record store. It is a new copy, so I've only spun it once, so it's in great shape, and man, does it sounds good. It's a good pressing, and this is a heavy record. This is like, if I wanted to show people what goth rock is, as a goth myself, even though I'm not really stressed out today, but as someone who was pretty goth, I'd show them this record. Like, this is just the one to listen to in terms of like, this is what that sound is, because the Bauhaus is like more the post-punk part of it, which is very important. So you pair that Bauhaus record with this, which is a bit more heavier, a bit more like doom metal-y at some points before doom metal was a thing. Yeah, this is a very heavy record. This might be their darkest record. This is their darkest record, yeah. So the dark part of goth music would be on here, whereas the more poppy jangle pop stuff would be on other records or on some Susie and the Banshee records. I love Susie and the Banshee too. I think I might like Juju more than I like this record, but I don't have a copy of Juju yet. So Juju's a great record. So yeah, album that defines a genre. I think it was 1984 that record came out, 1983. So what's next? Best band from your home country. I was gonna do the Velvet Underground, but I think consistently speaking, it has to be the Talking Heads, or just Talking Heads. This is the Remain in Light. This is an original LA pressing, or like a 1980 LA press. I'm very happy to have this. Not that it's like an outrageously expensive record. You get it for a decent price. Had got this in high school. Been listening to it, ever since. Yeah, I think they are kind of the best American band in terms of like consistently over the course of like many years developing their sound. Whereas like the Velvet Underground's great, but like Lou Reed and John Cale were kind of the reasons why it was so good. Not to like diminish the other contributions by the other members, but like if you listen to John Cale's solo material or you listen to Lou Reed's solo material, it's like that's kind of the reason you like that band, right? So whereas with this, you're here for the group as a greater than the sum of their parts. So because they're Talking Heads, David Byrne. Who do we have on here? Does it say? Brian Eno produced this, which is awesome. That's a good market quality from this era. If it was like a Brian Eno produced record, people go crazy for that, as do I. But yeah, Talking Heads. I should probably say what my favorite songs are on each of these albums. For this one, it's going to be Listening When, which is about like a terrorist in like Egypt or like the Middle East. It's like a narrative, very eerie record. And of course, Once in a Lifetime is great, but Listening When I think is the one that I didn't know ahead of time when I listened to this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a great song. So yeah, 1980, best song, best band from America. When I was looking through my record collection, I realized that like in terms of like bands from America, obviously there's plenty of amazing bands from America, but like it's more like the UK really in terms of like rock history. It's like just generally speaking, more bands came from the UK that supersede more American bands, whereas America has singer-songwriters, like solo artists is where America seems to thrive, I think. Be it in hip hop or folk or whatever, it's just like it seems to really thrive and as like an individual thing here, where you have one person maybe directing a band, but they're kind of like the driving force, but they're like the beginning and end of everything. I noticed that when looking through my list here. What else do we have here? Artists you miss dearly. So I don't really miss a lot of artists because like their music's always going to be there. But if there's one artist that I wish I got to see live that I'll never be able to, it would probably be Elliott Smith. This is the only thing I have of his that's on vinyl. I don't think I even have any of his CDs, but yeah. So he died in 2003, I think. And I always wish I got to see him live because I feel like that'd be an amazing show. But the fact that he's been gone for so long kind of makes his music, I think, hit a lot harder, which is why a lot of people like it. But yeah, here's this little 7-inch I got off of Bandcamp. It sounds pretty good too. I think it's paid at 45. It's not. It's has just a regular hole in it, but I want to take it out because look at this nice little. We have a translucent blue and a more opaque green. And the name of this single is it's a double, obviously. So it's Pretty Ugly Before. That's the A side, and the B side is a distorted reality is now a necessity to be free. Which the latter of which, sorry, I just ate dinner. The latter of which was on the From a Basement on a Hill album. That album. So so the B side on this was released on an album. So yeah. It's a good song. I haven't listened to it in a while though, because it's like I don't listen to a lot of singles because it's just more cumbersome to listen to. Because it's vinyl, you know. What else do we have here? Okay. Best live album in your collection. So I don't really have a lot of live albums in my collection. Just that's not really where my heart is at. If I were to choose, just in any format, I'm just sticking with vinyl because that's the point of this exercise. But if I were to choose any format that I have, it'd be Duke Ellington at Newport, 1954, the expanded Legacy edition. I don't know if it's called the Legacy, but it's the expanded edition from the 90s. It's like a 2-hour jazz performance at the Newport Jazz Festival. That's my favorite live album of all time, easily. That might be my favorite jazz album of all time, too. I think it is, yeah. And so I went with Live at Leeds. I haven't heard this since high school, but in terms of live albums that get a lot of clout, this one does, and it has like a nice package with like a bunch of or it looks like a bootleg. I take it out, but it's kind of old. I don't want it all to fall apart. But you guys have known what's the little inclusions that are in this thing. It's Live at Leeds. It's a classic. But yeah, I need to give this another listen too, as well with a lot of the Who stuff that I own because I'm a big Who fan, big Who fan. Okay. Your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? Anybody who knows me personally will know this is a very apt one for me. And that record for me was, as depressing as the title is, Songs from Suicide Bridge by David Kauffman and Eric Caboor. So this record, I learned about this on Rate Your Music because it was recommended to me on the recommendation section. And that's why I love that site so much. Because I would have never heard about this record otherwise. It's very, very obscure. It only has 4,000 ratings on Rate Your Music, and it's the only place you could hear it talked about. There's a Wikipedia page for it, and if you're in the know, you kind of know, but on Spotify or YouTube Music or any of the streaming services, does not have more than 1 million, doesn't have more than like 200,000 listens on any particular platform, or 300,000, I think, on Spotify. So, yeah, it's a beautiful folk record, very sad. Inspired by not inspired by suicide, but inspired by these two struggling to make it as like artists in California, and they would go to this open mic, and there was a guy there that they really looked up to, and they saw that he was struggling with it as well, and for them to be like, this dude's so talented, like why is he struggling? I think that's the original story, and so they kind of went into David Kauffman, who I think is that guy there. They went to his like shed in his like mother's house or behind his mother's house or something, and that they recorded the album there. There were supposed to be 13 songs on it. Only 10 made it on there because it was originally on one LP. This is a double LP variant. So I wonder what happened to those other 3 songs because I'm not a fan of expanded editions. I like the original, cut of a record most of the time. But for this record, for there to only be like 13 songs for a record that was only released twice, really. Like in 1984 and then in 2014, which is when this reissue is from. And for it to be relatively obscure and you have to kind of hunt on the corners of the internet to find it. I kind of want those 3 tracks to come to light if they ever do. I feel like I would really want to see how they'd fit into this track listing because this track listing is perfect as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, Suicide Bridge name is coming from the Burbank Bridge. I don't know what it's actually called. It might just be the Burbank Bridge, but in Burbank, California, where people would jump off. Hence why you have you can't see it in here, but there's like little guardrails on the side of the bridge. And so yeah, it's a very melancholy record, but it's very beautiful. It ends with a song called One More Day You'll Fly Again, which is a great song. My favorite song on this is probably Life and Times at the Beach. That's a great one. It's a kind of like a rock folk ballad. So this has been described as like a mix between Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska and Red House Painters, like that type of slowcore. So if you like even if you only kind of like Red House Painters or early Sun Kil Moon, which I know a lot of people do, you listen to this record, you'd love it then. You would love it. You wouldn't just like it, you'd love it. But yeah, it's a very good breakup album, as obviously because it's a very somber album. It's very reflective. It's very, introspective. And it's just, it's a good mood. It's just a mood setter. It's a good mood setter. So yeah, that's my pick for If I Got Dumped record. So what's next? What's next here? Best sounding drums on an album. Okay. Okay, I'm going to speak a little slower. Best sounding drums on an album. This one is a bit of a weird choice, I will admit. But I chose this because I listened to this record recently with a new preamp and new speakers for the first time in years. Or actually, I listened to this record in 2024, early 2024. So, and this is a record I've only ever heard on vinyl all the way through. I'll pick it. I think maybe once I listened to it on an iPod, but yeah, outside of that one time, I'd listen to it front to back on vinyl just because if I have it on CD or cassette or vinyl, I'll listen to it on there if I'm home because it's like, why not? Whereas if I'm out and about, I'm obviously be doing digital, but like, so as a result, like most of the time I'm listening to this record, it is on vinyl, and so I was able to compare it, the new speakers and preamp compared to what I used to have, and wow. The drums on this record, the synthetic drums. I don't know how Dr. Dre recorded this record. I don't know if he did it on tape. I doubt he would. But in this day and age, this is 2012. Good Kid, M.A.A.d by Kendrick Lamar. If you guys don't recognize it, I figured most of you would. Amazing pressing. Probably like one of, if not the best sounding pressing in my collection. I'd have to compare it through a lot, but like, goddamn. I couldn't get over how good this sounded. This like cheap $20, I got this at a Walmart, like $20 Walmart pressing I got like 5 years ago. And so yeah, the drums, like I said, they really pop. Might be because it's the new speakers that I have that have a better frequency response. Might be because of the preamp or whatever, but like, wow, the drums on this sound great. I'd love to compare it with like a more, standard rock album, but like the bass and the drums on this, be it synthetic or not, sound incredible. So yeah, that's why I chose this one, even if it is like a bit unorthodox for that question. I know like a rock album would make more sense for that, but yeah. Where are we at now? Favorite artist who's a member of 2 or more bands. Okay, this one was kind of hard for me because I don't really own a lot of those solo records. So sorry for the noise of the fan, by the way. So hopefully that, looking at the audio here, it's not peaking too hard, so you guys can hear me better. So I decided to go with somebody who's in a lot of bands who I know only as a solo artist. I was going to go with Rod Stewart, which would have been a good choice. That's why I brought him up earlier. But Jeff Rosenstock, worry. Jeff Rosenstock, big Jeff Rosenstock fan. I haven't listened to Hell Mode yet, but I've listened to pretty much everything else he's done as a solo artist. All of his solo material, or all of his solo records. And this is easily my favorite one. But yeah, he just, not much to say about him. Punk rock, pop punk, very critical of late stage capitalism. Very like, if you're like a young person who's like, even slightly left leaning, you would like this record because he's like, it's not super political, it's more political in the sense of like, man, like American Idiot's political, where it's like, yeah, we all kind of know this sucks, but you try to find some joy in it regardless. And so yeah, Jeff Rosenstock, worry. My favorite, probably my favorite artist who's a member of a few more bands, but like every solo artist was in like some band or another. Like Elliott Smith was in at least 2 bands, right? But like he was like a more like, there's the dogs barking. He was a more major part of this, of like the bands he was a part of, as opposed to someone like Elliott Smith. Like he was a figurehead for those bands, and he is like a very popular solo artist. So I feel like that answers the question a bit better. But yeah. So what's next? Beatles or Stones? This is an easy one. Beatles. I mean, as I love the Rolling Stones, I have like that. There are 4 classic run of albums from Beggar's Banquet to Exile on Main Street. That 4 kind of perfect 10 records, which I don't think I'd call any of them besides Exile a perfect 10. But there's like really high quality records there. I'm trying to get because I have the screen up there. But yeah, Abbey Road. Abbey Road is so good, as is the album that came before it, the White Album. And as I was saying with the Rolling Stones, I have their material, but like what they're known for is doing blues rock and doing blues rock really well. That's what they did. They're a blues rock band. They're dabbled in some other stuff or country rock or psychedelia, I think, for some points. But like the reason why people like the Rolling Stones is because of their blues rock material, and they did that amazingly. However, there's blues rock on here too, and it's also amazing. So it's like the Beatles as a whole just experimented more and were just more interesting. They're as talented as the Stones, but did more with that talent, whereas the Stones did less. So there's no, like, it's like no discussion there. It's like a J. Cole versus Kendrick. Actually, you know what? J. Cole's not. That's not a good comparison either. Never mind. But yeah, Beatles, Abbey Road. This is like a 1969 American pressing, but you can get those pretty cheap because it's Abbey Road, sold 1 trillion copies, so like every other Beatles record. The trouble is finding it in good condition. So, what else? You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to? I don't like weed from the times that I have had it, which has been very, 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 very rarely. But if I did, it gives me anxiety. I'd want a record that I think would be a comfort record, that I could get something out of it by being in an altered state. So, Neutral Milk Hotel and the Aeroplane Over the Sea. I feel like this is a good one for me because it's a record that is kind of weird, has a very abstract lyrics, a very, itself. It's very idiosyncratic, which would be good, I think, for that kind of experience. And also, I know it front to back, so I wouldn't be surprised by anything. It's a good comfort record, so that's kind of the angle I went. I went with comfort record for that, because like I said, that question, it's hard for me to answer. But yeah, what else to say about this record? I think this is like one of the 2008 pressings that are super popular, that helped restore helped with the resurgence of vinyl. That kind of series of pressings, like the In Rainbows era, So, and it sounds great too. And we'll talk about that more later, because that relates to a question. So, what else? Album from the 1980s you still listen to? Probably my favorite. I don't know if it's the best record from this decade, but it's my personal favorite. Probably. Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen. Listened to this record a lot in college, and late into high school. Just super catchy pop rock. Some of his best lyricism as well. A very, very sad record. If you pay attention to what he's saying, there's not a happy song on this record. Everybody's losing, everybody's falling apart, but it's hidden underneath like this pop rock kind of synth aesthetic. And it's another cheap record you could pick up for cheap too. So yeah, Born in the USA. It's my favorite Springsteen record, even if I think Born to Run is his best. This is what I personally would listen to the most. So yeah, I like this kind of like Fantano style, just put up to your head so it gets in frame properly. But yeah, listen to this fairly regularly. Listen to it just like a month ago as well. So, good record. An artist whose political stance has soured you. Okay, this is a really, really, really. This one I didn't think I was gonna find anything for in my collection. I'm like, who do I listen to that I wouldn't like politically? I know plenty of them got Me Too'd. That's its own thing. But like in terms of political stuff, and then I looked through my Discogs. I'm like, well, there's an obvious answer there. And I knew this going in when I bought this record. I want to make that clear. I emotionally prepared myself for this. For those of you who don't know, this is Burzum. It's a project by a guy named Varg Vikernes, I think is his name. And he is a neo-Nazi, and he killed the lead singer not the lead singer, but he killed a member of a band called, I believe, Mayhem was the name of the band, and the guy's name was Euronymous. I know that part. And he killed him. And he also would burn down churches, I think, or maybe somebody else from Mayhem did that. Everybody in the Norwegian black metal scene was burning down churches. So, yeah, it's a black metal record. For those of you who don't know what black metal is, it's kind of like super atmospheric, super densely layered metal that is very oppressive and very loud, but not like it's kind of heavy in the same way that Cure Pornography record is heavy, the one that I mentioned earlier. In terms of a heavy sound, it's not so much loud and in your face. It's more like a weighted blanket that's too heavy for you being put on you. And I really like that style of music. So I knew going in that this guy had some problems. He has gone on record saying that he writes his lyrics separate from his political stances, which I definitely believe him that he's trying to. But I feel like regardless, it's naturally it's going to come out, because that's just the nature of art. However. So that has alienated from me from fully enjoying this record as much as I could, but I can step back and be like, okay, with what it is, with what it is saying lyrically, which isn't very neo-Nazi at all. It's very just very foresty, I guess. It is a kind of fantastic black metal record. It is. And I know Varg Vikernes is still a Nazi. He went to jail and he got out of jail and he's like, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not gonna kill people, but I'm still a Nazi. I'm still have Nazi ideas. Don't get me wrong. So, yeah. This is one that I was alienated before I listened to it, so I really do have to separate the art from the artist, which is easy to do when most of this record is when this record's in a language you don't speak, and you can barely hear any of the lyrics because it's so buried underneath the black metal aesthetic. So yeah, this is a import that I got at a record store for a pretty good price too, and so I'm pretty happy with it. This one I have to pay. I would have to pay through the nose if I wanted to buy this again, but luckily I got it for a good deal. So. Yeah, and it sounds great. It also sounds really good. But yeah, I'm glad they had that question in here because this is a good one to talk about because I wanted to talk about this for a while because I have it in my collection. I just feel guilty having it, But What else do we have here? Show a favorite record label. Much lighter question. I mentioned earlier that the Neutral Milk Hotel record sounded really good. That's because it was pressed on Merge, and so Merge is also the label for Arcade Fire. I think they still are. And speaking of people who got Me Too'd, Win Butler of Arcade Fire, but yeah, this one also sounds fantastic. I know Arcade Fire joined this label because of Neutral Milk Hotel, because they loved that album so much that they wanted to be a part of, we're going with this label, because, I can imagine as an artist, if somebody releases Neutral Milk Hotel in the Aeroplane Over the Sea, that they'll let you kind of do whatever you want. Not that Arcade Fire is super out there, they're just kind of like Baroque rock. But yeah, I chose them as my favorite label just because their pressings are consistently good. That was the main reason. I don't really have a favorite label. I like Sub Pop probably more in terms of the artists on their roster, but since it's so vinyl this is a vinyl focused. I have so much mucus in my throat. I'm sorry. A vinyl focused thing. I wanted to go with my favorite vinyl label, which would be Merge, because it just sounds so good. This is a cool little package. Has some stuff on the inner sleeves, but nothing worth taking out. So, as you can tell, I haven't really taken out much stuff because it's not really worthwhile. So, yeah. Run of 3 great singles. That's the next one. A run of 3 great singles. I'll post all the questions below with my answers to them as well, because I know I talk a bit fast, so you guys may not know what I'm talking about. So you can read along with me, because I know with my voice it could be hard to understand sometimes. But yeah, a run of 3 great singles. I was going to go Thriller, because I know Thriller is famous for having so many #1 singles and stuff, but I'm like, nah, let me go with recently what I think is a good run of 3 singles from an album. This question is kind of open-ended. I know people have used it to show off their favorite 3 7-inches, which I think is cool. Again, sorry. So I decided to go with a record that came out recently that had 3, in this case 4 amazing singles on it, which would be the new Vampire Weekend record, Only God Was Above Us. I got to see them live on this tour, and it was incredible. It was Ezra, the lead singer, was so confident. He was so different than what I've seen from in interviews and from just 10 years ago. You could tell that he's emotionally, he's doing well just physically and emotionally, and he's has the confidence of the rock star that he needs to be to put out a record like this, as well as the rest of the group who are all involved, including Rostam, who helped produce some of the tracks on this record. But yeah, has 3 great singles on it. If I remember them, I don't know if they were in this order, but it was Mary Boone, Gen X Cops, Capricorn, and Classical. Those were the 4 singles going in, and in my opinion, every song on this record's great. It's a near 10 for me. I'd give it a 9.8 or something if I had to. It's still a very high score, an almost perfect record, and it's my favorite rock record as of right now of 2024. So, favorite rock record of the year, right above Jordy Greep's The New Sound, which is also a very high, 9.7, 9.8. But this one I think ekes it out because it's a bit more focused. It's only 10 tracks instead of that are shorter. It just gets to the point more. But yeah, run of 3 great singles. This is a double LP as well, which I want to show the gatefold off of this because this one does look kind of nice. Has this nice little gatefold there. It comes in thick sleeves and everything, thick inner sleeves. It's a nice little package here. It was expensive too compared to most double LPs, so I kind of paid a bit more than I wanted to for this, but it sounds great. It's only a 47-minute record, so it could fit on one disc fine, probably, but because, it's Ezra and the gang, and they put, a lot of work into their production, this is a double LP now. It's 10 tracks across 4 sides, and the last song of the album that's 8 minutes long, called Hope, which might be my favorite song on the album, is on its own side. So it's just, it's an 8-minute side. It's crazy. So it sounds great. It really does sound great. I wouldn't be surprised if they recorded this on tape, but I'd also be surprised if they did. And now I have to figure out the way to get it back into its outer sleeve here. Because I always like to put these little outer sleeves on each of my records, as many of you do as well, because it's a way of keeping everything kind of safe. But because it's such a thicker kind of gatefold, it's hard to do that. But yeah. Okay, we're in the home stretch here. A record store day purchase that you actually consistently listen to. I have not purchased any record store day exclusives. I have purchased stuff on record store day at record stores, but that was after the crowd came in. I was just visiting the record store normally. So, I will go with what I think is like my most noteworthy purchase at a record store, which is this bootleg of David Bowie's "Man Who Sold the World," which I didn't realize was a bootleg at the time when I bought it, because I knew this cover was rare. I wasn't that naive where I'm like, oh, I have an original copy of the Man Who Sold the World for $20. Like, no, I thought it was like an '80s reissue, and so when I called the guy afterwards, he was like acting surprised, like, yeah, didn't you know that's a bootleg? It's like, you didn't mark it on the thing, which I understand why, because that's illegal to sell this. It's illegal to sell like bootlegs and stuff, technically. Not that anybody's gonna be like barging down his door or anything, but like, I was like, yeah, but I thought it was just like a reissue from the '80s I wasn't aware of, you know, because I wouldn't be surprised if we did that. So I almost brought it back. I didn't. I'm glad I kept it. It does sound pretty damn good for a bootleg, and not that bootlegs are known for sounding bad. I know some of them are, but like, it does sound really good. So, and it is kind of hard to find this record even as a bootleg. I looked on eBay and the prices were more than what I paid for it for a bootleg. So, yeah, so only bootleg in my collection, I think. But yeah, as a result, I don't go to that record store anymore, because it's like I want to be able to trust you guys a bit more. And I understand, like, maybe it should have been on me to know that this was a bootleg, but it's like I didn't know that they never reissued this until like the 2010s, where they did like a 180-gram version of this. But yeah, it's a great album. I want to comment on this. This is David Bowie, "Man Who Sold the World," I think from 1969, 1968. But no, this is a like really good record. Not just from the title track, but just the whole vibe. It's just a good rock album. I don't think there's a bad song on here, but it's been a while since I've listened to it, so who knows. What else? Okay, we're almost there. We have just 4 more to go. You can be reincarnated as any artist, dead or alive. Who's it gonna be? This one I chose as, not that I really want to be an artist. I'm more of I like to write, plays and scripts and stuff, so I'm not really like a musician. But if I had to choose, in terms of like how I think and how I like to express myself, I wish I could express myself more like this person, which would be another new record, probably the most recent release in my collection from December 6th, I think it came out. Cameron Winter of Geese, if you guys know Geese. This is his debut solo record. This is heavy metal. Cameron Winter, heavy metal. Really funny, sad, melancholy, self-deprecating, also optimistic somehow record. It's 10 tracks, 44 minutes. Came out last year, towards the tail end of the year. A lot of people like this record. My friend that I met at a concert, he loves this record too, which is what kind of put me onto it, because him and I have very similar taste in singer-songwriters. So if you like folk rock, I think, if you like gospel or blue-eyed soul, it's a bunch of different genres, but it just kind of makes sense when you hear it. But yeah, Cameron Winter, heavy metal. Not much you can say about this record in terms of what it sounds like. You kind of just have to hear it. Like I could read off some lyrics to you, but if you don't hear him sing them, it won't kind of work. So if what I've said has piqued your curiosity, then definitely give this a listen. Cameron Winter, heavy metal. This one is another colored record. I should get that out. I had the Elliott Smith one earlier, so I might as well get this one out as well. It is in heavy metal, like translucent gray. So we have this like it's closer to opaque than it is not, but you can kind of see me behind there, maybe a little bit, maybe you can't. But yeah, it sounds pretty good too. It's a bit staticky though. It sounds good in terms of like the bass and response and stuff, which on vinyl records is kind of hit or miss. But it is very staticky, so it's a very noisy pressing, which I'm not a fan of. But it's not noisy enough for me to not play it a bunch. It's definitely more than listenable, and yeah, it's just a bit noisy. Might be static on my end though, Could be user error. I notice whenever I take this out of its package, it's very staticky for whatever reason. And I'll like rub my hand against it, and you can feel like the hair stand up. So maybe it's just staticky, because it always feels staticky. So, and I have a little anti-static brush that I use for my records, but it didn't really work on this one. So who knows? But yeah, Cameron Winter, heavy metal. I wish I could kind of write like him if I were to write at all, which I wouldn't really want to do. I like his tone. I like how surrealist he is. It's like, I don't know. It just makes sense. It just makes sense, especially for his voice, which he has quite a unique voice. Okay, so second to last record and third to last question: best 3 lines in a song. So this is another cool package that I'll definitely take out. I didn't know what I was gonna do with this. I was gonna do a line off of "Only God Was Above Us," the Vampire Weekend record I just showed a little bit ago. Um, However, looking through what I have in my collection, I wanted to do this record because I think it's my favorite line delivery of like the past 10 years, which is a pretty big thing to say, which I don't know even know if I believe that. On the title track of this record, this is Pure Comedy by Father John Misty. I don't know if I said the name yet. This record came out in 2017, very politically charged, but not in the Phil Oaks kind of way, more in like the apathetic millennial kind of way. Where he kind of just comments on the world at large and the human condition and, you know, the human species. And on the first track of the record, which is the title track, which is probably my favorite track too, he says the lines, until there's nothing human left, just random matter, suspended in the dark. How does it go? Let me pull it up. He essentially, in the first track of the record, he talks about humanity as a whole and how we, you know, came from like cave hominids and stuff like that, and now we have like a society and stuff. And so he talks about, here's the ending of the song, which goes like this. But the only thing that they request is something to numb the pain with until there's nothing human left. That's a good 3 lines there. But then it goes to just random matter, suspended in the dark. I hate to say it, but each other's all we got. So those last 3 lines of until there's nothing human left to each other's all we got, I really like his delivery on that. So that's my choice for it. I want to go through this little package though before I put it away. So this is like a die cut, I guess is the word. It's very sleeve. It's very similar to Physical Graffiti, if you guys know how that package worked, where you can kind of choose which you want to display. So we have like a kind of red California wildfire, which is not a joke as much as it is an observation of what's happening in the world right now, kind of set up like there. Then we have one that's somewhat similar, that's more like a dawn or a dusk, and then this is the original cover there, the blue, and if you just switch it around, you can kind of like change the colors of it. It's really cool. Not only that, it comes with like a nice fold out, which I won't get out because it's not as interesting, but it also comes with these nice colored records here. It's a very digital sounding pressing. It doesn't sound that good for a vinyl record, you know, as good as they can sound. So yeah. And let me show you the other one. The other one's copper. That one's silver and this one's copper. This is the this one I like a little bit better. This is in terms of appearance, but yeah, this is the C and D side there. And I'm gonna go with the red because I like the red a lot. But yeah, that's my pick. One of the first records I ever bought too was this one too. When I first started collecting, I bought this one. So it will always hold a special place in my heart. I've easily spun this like a dozen times, as you might guess, from it being one of my first records. Another burp. Okay, and then our final record, and there's one more question after that. Let me see here. An album you never tire of. So I'd have to go with what is my favorite album of all time, and a record that, because it's so long, and the fact that I can still listen to it all the way through, as many times as I've had, I probably listened to this at least 10 times. And it's a 2-hour record. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And the fact that I can listen to it that many times for as long as it is, and put 20 hours into it, which I have. I haven't listened to it recently. I feel like the only answer is Sun Kill Moon. I mentioned them earlier. Common as Light and Love, or Red Valleys of Blood. This is a 4 LP set. That's limited edition, numbered, because this is one of Sun Kill Moon's more popular records with the fans. I was able to get it for a decent price, and you still get it for a decent price now. So if you guys like this record, it's folk rock with some instrumental hip hop, folktronica stuff as well. Very beautiful record, very heart wrenching as well. I'll repeat the title again because it's so long. Common as Light and Love, are Red Valleys of Blood. That's essentially the thesis of the album, is like, for every good thing in life there is a bad thing, and vice versa. For every bad thing in life there's a good thing. Like in every single song in this album, Mark is usually telling us, Mark Kozelek, who's a singer of this band, and essentially it's just his project. Mark Kozelek will talk about, a dead relative or a dead friend or like a bad event, and then in that same song talk about something positive as well that's related to it, like, and that's the thesis of the record, is like, with all the good in life comes all the bad, and it's fine. So it's a record that is very real, it's very honest, but it's very positive too. It very is much. It's much more the light and love as opposed to red valleys of blood part of that thesis, right? Um, yeah, it's just a lot of stories. It's very 2017 as well. There's a lot of events that happen around that time that he directly references in this album. So if you're familiar with that time, it'll definitely be a throwback. But since I've listened to this record so much since then, since 2017 or 2018, I think 2018 New Year's Day, I listened to the first song on this record, "God Bless Ohio," which is a really fantastic song. But yeah, my favorite record of all time. I should give this a spin again sometime. It's just 2 hours long, and I don't really listen to a lot of music that long much anymore. I listen to the new Swans live album though, which is pretty damn good. I have that on CD, the live rope record. So, but yeah, favorite record of all time. Luckily for me, somebody had when I don't know where I got this inner sleeve, but I got this inner sleeve that's kind of like blown out, for lack of a better word, and so it can actually fit comfortably this massive record. So I can still protect this one, which I'm very happy about, because I don't think any of my others could do this. So I think it was like, I got it with a box set, and it was like to protect the box set, but I don't take out the box set as much, so it doesn't need it, right? So yeah. And that concludes our vinyl tag for today. There is one last question, though, that doesn't require a record, which is, who is your favorite VC channel, which means vinyl collecting channel? And for me, that'd be Noble Records, run by a guy also named Dylan, kind of like a Southern guy. And I watched his video to get these questions for this, and so I'm using his kind of guide for that to go off of. So I'll link his video in the description. You guys can check him out, and also I'll link all the questions with my answers in them as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope the audio recorded. This is a 40-minute video, but yeah, I'll upload this to just the regular Zigwhammy channel. It's tied to my Twitch, I think, or something like that. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, feel free. I'll post the questions without my answers in the comments. You guys can copy and paste them if you want to do this yourself. It's a lot of fun. You really get to learn a lot about yourself by doing this. So yeah, thank you all, and keep spinning, I guess. Have a good one. Bye.